Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you. So I know one thing that Stephen talks a lot about is like overcoming your past, and I think it's such an important topic because people get stuck in the past, and oftentimes bring their past, carry with them throughout their entire life, and allow things to happen in the past to influence every single action, every single decision that they make going forward. And so, like, in my head, like, healing from the past is not the same as, like, if you cut yourself, given time, it's going to heal. But I feel like with things that happen in the past, what has to happen is you have to have a perspective shift, a paradigm shift. Something needs to change in your brain in terms of how you feel about what has happened.
It's funny because I feel like me and you were just talking about this topic the other day in a lighthearted fashion. We was on the phone and I told you, yeah, you know, I don't call anybody my ex after 4 years because, you know, it's like, all right, that was a completely different person. Then I was a completely different person than who I am in the next 4 years. So I guess I never really held on to the past in that capacity. But then, man, you really said something really stuck with me too. It was, yeah, while that's also true, it is also still part of, like, I should take pride in that part of the journey as well. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciated that. And I think to me now, that's what overcoming my past is. It's not I need to go fix something. It's that happened for me. I don't have to be embarrassed of it. I don't have to feel like, oh, I need to separate myself away from it. That can still be a part of what was me, and who I am now can be just as fine. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I think of when I hear the topic now. Mm-hmm.
I think something that just hits me, and when you was talking about that was somebody told me one time, you can't grow in the environment that made you sick. And when I think about that, I just think about growing from my past. In order for me to get over the past, I think about it as to where it's limiting me from growing. So when I'm in that mindset, it's like, okay, do I want to stay stuck or do I want to grow? And the only reason why I stayed stuck was because I was so attached to that feeling and that trigger, you know. And then I noticed every situation in my life that comes along, something may trigger me, and then it automatically shifts me back to the past. So I had to change my perspective on how I looked at everything. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I did that, and I'm still doing it now, I seen a different shift in the things that has come my way.
I like what you just said, because you said someone said you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. And I think most people would take that like, mm-hmm. I have to move my physical body somewhere else. But what you basically said was, my environment is internal. Mm-hmm. So it's what's going on in my brain, it's what's going on in my spirit, in my soul, in my heart. That's my environment. And if I keep that environment the same, then I'm not going to grow. And so, you can literally be in the same physical environment, but change your internal environment and grow.
I used to think I was over my past, but then I would realize that, okay, I'm not thinking about that anymore. But at the same time, I'm still reacting to this the same way. Like the way I react to the situation is still from my past. And so I realized that, okay, I might not be thinking about my past every day, but I still got those same feelings when this happened or when that happened. And I just realized that I had to change my perspective on it and really understand that those things happen for me and not to me. And that, like, just the switch for that can help me appreciate the past and help me realize, okay, all that happened for me to lead up to this moment right now. You know, and so just me changing and thinking about it like that, I'm like, I'm all right now. So that worked. That worked out. Like it all worked out. And also, I would say to the audiences, if you thinking about your past and you look at where you're at now, it's almost like you can visualize yourself running to the finish line. But the finish line is you with your arms open. Like, so it's like, you know, like, hey, I did it, but it's the next you. You know, so yeah, that's how I try to look at it now.
Yeah, I like, sometimes when I just think about past, right, I always just think about something like what you said, to follow back on it, is, dang, I came a long way. And then I rethink about what happened then, and then I look at it now, and then it's just, I get more appreciation for what happened then, because back then I probably was not in the mental space of being, thinking about changing my perspective or, you know, things that were triggering me. But for the most part, it's more of an awareness, so that way I know, like, this is where I came from, this is where I'm at, like, you the man. Like, look what you did, you know?
It's so funny that y'all both speak on getting to a place of appreciation too, because I know it's like when I think about past, like, because literally every moment is the past. So when I think about the past, like, some things I can get there, but like just I just had to have a conversation. Ugh, what is that? I just had to have a conversation with you the other day because we were growing in this area and I was having a hard time appreciating the growth. Instead, all I could see is, I was judging everything about myself in this space. It was like, I need to do this better, I need to do that better, I need to do that better. Instead of saying, like, the reality of it is, at one point, we did this with floodlights, and like, look at the growth now, and so to get to another step of growth is truly amazing. And so I really do thank you for that, because man, I was giving myself the toughest time about all of that, honestly. It was like I kept feeling like I was letting not only myself down, but everybody else down, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for the next thing. But I was never really appreciating the past. And so I could never overcome it, because I would never even embrace it as positive. I was too busy judging it as a negative thing. And I think that's probably the biggest part of overcoming, because, you know, now that you start talking about it, I don't know if I think anybody needs to overcome their past. Like, you can just embrace it and have it be a part. Like, what is to overcome means, like, all right, I defeated that, I got past that, but like, what are we getting past? It's like now what I'm thinking.
And that's like a wonderful change in perspective, and I feel like everybody's change in perspective can be different. You just need to change it. Change it in a way that's beautiful for you, in a way that feels good for you. So like one thing, for example, I know I did was I had started looking at the past as like looking at the good things that came from it. And so I remember saying that to someone who had been in a similar situation to me, and they're like, there is nothing good that came from this. And I can't even make my mind think that anything good could come from such a horrendous situation. And so while what I was doing is trying to find good things about it, for that person, that wasn't the answer. You know, so there might be other ways that you can just change your perspective. And, you know, primarily like what Rodney said, that's an easy one for me too, is to just say, you know what, stop. This is happening for me, not to me.
Right.
And just like really believing on that, it just has the power to change the whole situation around. And you're like, okay, well then how could this have been happening for me? And you can just, if you can just come up with one one reason, and it might, you know, it may or may not be the real reason, but it just like it gives you some relief, you know.
I think one thing that I think about is when I getting over the past is I tell myself get out of the victim mind state, because sometimes I would have this victim mentality, and I realized like, hold up, why are you in this state of mind? Like, get out of that mindset and look at it from a different perspective. And that helped me a lot, you know, to change my perspective on it.
I think a lot of times when we talk about the past, people like to say things like, don't forget where you came from. And like now I look at that different, and I change it to appreciate where you came from.
I love that.
Because it's like I can appreciate everything that happened in my life that led me up to this moment of who I am now. And then the next 10 years, I'm gonna appreciate everything that led me up to that. So it's like, appreciate where you came from, because all of that, no matter how you feel about it, got you to here and who you are now. And at any moment, you can change who you are or your situation.
I was just going to say, what if you don't like who you are? So I know I spent a lot of years being mad about the past, because now I'm this person who I don't like. And I don't know how to change it. I don't have the power. I always felt like my wings were clipped. And I didn't have the power to change anything. I felt weak and powerless, and I felt like it was because of the stuff in the past. So what could you say to somebody that's feeling like that?
A thing that helps me is something you said is just saying I am more than that. I am more than anything that happened to me, or any way I'm feeling about myself that's negative or whatever the case may be. It's like I'm more than any of that. And once you start loving yourself and really loving on yourself and feeling that, then you can overcome anything and be more than whatever the situation is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the biggest thing, loving yourself, you know. Look in the mirror, say, you know, I am worthy, you know, I am deserving, I am loved, you know, I deserve to be loved. Put a loving vibration onto yourself, like how you would treat somebody in a loving and caring way, treat yourself in the exact same way. I mean, you deserve the same thing of what you put out, you know, in a good sense, you know, so.
And I agree wholeheartedly with what y'all said. I know when I was in that space, and they like look in the mirror and tell yourself these things,
Hey,
they didn't do a thing for me, like nothing. Because I would be like, I'm worthy, and I'm like, no, you ain't. You know, like my negative self-talk was so much louder than anything that I could say. I didn't believe anything that I was saying. All the little exercises that, you know, because I was always like a self-help guru type of person. I've been studying, trying to get better since I was in the 5th grade. Like literally reading everything I can read, and people be like, you know, all you gotta do is love yourself. I'm like, but how? How do you love yourself? And so I was like 20-something years old before I got that. And it did go back to what Rodney was saying, I am more than that. But it was not just the words, it was like really recognizing that I'm more than this physical body, I'm more than anything that's happened to me in the past. You know, I'm more than what I see when I look in the mirror. Like, I'm connected to the source of all that exists. Like, and it was that recognizing that connection is what me say, well then dang, then I am worthy, you know. But in the absence of recognizing that connection, like there was nothing I could say to myself to make me feel like you, Arvette McClain, is worthy. It was me recognizing my connection to all that is that made me realize my worthiness.
And you see, that's spot on too, because when you ask the question, the first thing I was thinking is, oh, well, we should build up the appreciation. But like, if it's hard to build up the appreciation for yourself, the things around you, but not like the physical things, but like the natural physical things. Like, let's really, yeah, I remember you always saying like, oh, I love how abundant trees are, like things like that. So, or to take the steps into the grass and really appreciate every blade of grass. And then as you appreciate every blade of grass, now that blade that's right there on your foot, you appreciate that, and now you're like, dang, I appreciate my foot for being able to feel that. And then you bring it up like that is one of the things I was thinking as well.
That's nice. And yeah, and I think it's just so important, like what you were saying, it's an awareness, like taking the time to be aware, because I remember I was very clear that I loved being outside. And so like people would always say, what do you love to do? And then make that your job. And so I remember as a young, as a kid, I would always love to go on this trail. It was called Buttermilk Trail. I used to love going on the trail. Oh my gosh, it was just the best. And I'm like, okay, well, I love going on a trail, so what kind of job, or whatever. But what I wasn't realizing was that I was just loving being in nature and loving the freedom that you, like, just being in nature raises your vibration. And so that's what I was really vibing off of, not knowing it. And so I think that conscious awareness, like, okay, I'm feeling great right now. Like, what am I vibing off of right now that's making me feel great? And then more of that. Yeah, so I think those were really some great pointers in terms of overcoming the past. The main thing being to shift your perspective. And so shifting your perspective as far as it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Feeling appreciation for, what was the thing you said about the past? You was like, don't forget where you came from. Appreciate where you came from. Appreciate where you came from. Appreciating the things that got you to where you are. Loving on yourself. Changing your internal environment. Like all those things. And like Teron was saying, like loving on yourself by possibly just recognizing your connection to everything and just realizing that whatever is great that you see out there, that's a part of you as well. Anything else y'all want to add to that?
I feel like that was all of it.
We had summed it up.
All right, well, great. So overcoming your past, and I know that's something Stephen loves talking about. And I always, whenever Stephen's like, it's hard, and I always say, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Like, you can literally switch your perspective in any moment and start recognizing your connection to all that is, recognizing that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. Enjoying the journey, appreciating the journey, finding something good about it, finding a positive aspect about whatever happened in this situation that that you deemed as negative. All right. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week. And until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steven.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.